see, we've all been friends, right? And we have hung out in different capacities at different times. But I don't think I've ever asked each one of you, like, the more you think about life, you are a factor of what I don't know. What happened to you when you were a kid? What were the conditions you grew up in? How your parents were? What school you went to? Who your friends were? I don't think we can get into all of that today, but maybe talking a little bit about where we come from, not the material, like, I got 98% in that kind of stuff, but just a broad picture which
I don't
helps
think any
us.
of us got 98% in anything.
Umang, I have a doubt.
Umang probably got 98%.
Okay, I'm embarrassed, but yeah. So, childhood was very regular.
No, he said we're not going to discuss that today.
Okay, so
I need to speak to my therapist first and then come here.
regular childhood. Grew up in Bombay.
Yeah.
Dad worked with L&T as his first job and his last job. So started as an engineer and then retired from the board. So it was a great upbringing. I loved growing up in Bombay in Pali Hill. And then
Can I just digress for a second?
Yeah.
There is a really weird school of thought. So my new big thing is psychology, okay? I've stopped reading all books on finance, economy, stock market. I just
And only
read psychology shit.
Yeah,
And this has
great.
been the deal for the last few years. So it talks about people who are successful and correlates how horrible their childhood was. It says most successful people, especially startup founders and stuff like that, I don't consider startup people successful in the true sense of the word, because a lot of what we do is in our own bubbles and whatever, right? But let's assume for that to be true. So he says that if you were very, very insecure, even though modern world today tells us insecurity is a bad thing, insecurity is directly proportional to how much you will overcompensate for that insecurity and in turn be successful by the gauge that capitalism considers
Totally.
successful.
So by that logic,
Don't look at me
Yeah.
with those eyes.
by that logic, I'll answer and I'll just remove the mask. I think if I had to describe myself, I would describe myself as amongst the most shallow human beings on planet Earth. Because
The fact that you're able to admit that to yourself probably makes you less shallow than some of us.
That's not true. So it was always about chasing something.
Right.
And pleasing something and wearing a mask. So it was about standing first in class all through just to please that, right? Or it was, spending the first 6 years as an engineer and trying to be capitalistic and make the most amount of money. And then the next 14 years was that phase where I became an accidental CEO at 27 and then ran into it, Adobe, Facebook. And it was just one thing after the other. And for me, I think that realization came that I'm the most shallow human being is when I looked at myself when I turned 40. And I had become like 140 kilos, didn't like the guy I was. I don't think I was I was never around for the family because one was always trying to, solve someone's problem or the company's problem, and you kind of made that title your identity. And you always chased a materialistic asset. And so I think on that day, I'd like to believe I gave it all up. Viru and I, when we started off, we had no real funds, etc. We just had a belief in what we were doing. And and 5 years down that journey as an entrepreneur, we've had 3 near bankrupt experiences or reached with 1 month cash in the bank.
What did you think at your lowest when, say, you were 3 months away from bankruptcy? What was the thought process between you and your co-founder, Viru?
So Viru and I are like brothers. We have the deepest intellectual honesty that we can say anything to each other.
When things get really bad, is there innate tendency to kind of blame each other and at a very small level?
Never.
No?
So we've never had those issues because, we are so comfortable with each other that we can now, he's almost like people tease me as like my work spouse, right? Because we can complete each other's sentences. But I think when we ran out of money with that 1 month, I can be very open around this and say March 2020, March 7th, the pandemic hit. We were going to run out of cash on March 30th. We had just 1 month's cash left in the bank. And those are humbling moments, right? You go through a couple of these. But it was for no fault of ours. I mean, the business was doing well, the revenue was up. We were just burning a little bit more in that phase of Dailyhunt. And now, of course, it's profitable. But that phase was hard. But I think the only decision that we were debating between ourselves is, are we pushing it too much to the edge? Like, will this happen? And somewhere I had this innate belief. In fact, Viru has told the story publicly that the month that we came together on a $100 million term sheet, which went away. And I took it more personally than him. Literally sat on an economy seat plane around the world trying to raise our first $15 million. And that was great. And I think I had more fun in that journey when we were a 500 million company and we were more scrappy and whatever. But I think where it came to the only point of debate between us is, should we tell the teams and let go of people? And I'm like philosophically against that school. You cut your coat according to your cloth, and if you hire, you technically shouldn't be firing, right? And you shouldn't live beyond your means. So luckily on March 28th, 2020, we raised 75 and we got out of it. But I would say that turning 40 and the realization, getting more focused on health and fitness, getting more focused on trying to build and create and try and leave a legacy was, I today, irrespective of who I'm meeting, I wear my kids and a t-shirt and I won't dress for anyone. I don't do the things that I did. I don't care about which car someone came in or, where someone stays. My judgment is, do I like you and can I relate to you and can I learn from you and even contribute back? So I've kind of I don't think I've attained sainthood, but I'd like to believe that I'm not as shallow as I was. Just chasing a title, chasing the next number, chasing the next position. I probably had the best paying job in tech in India when I gave it up with Facebook, right? And so it's one of those moments. But I think my wife used to tell me that those 2 years I was, not a fun guy to be with because I was just so obsessed in a different direction. So it's kind of negative in that sense, and you kind of tend to believe. The other thing that, as an entrepreneur, you probably know this the best, but people meet you as Nikhil Kamath. Let's say you're super successful today, but there was a time when you were not, right? And would those people still give you that time and attention? I think you tend to get to know who those real people are. And I think when you're talking to someone, is he meeting you for the title? Is he meeting you because of you? And I think that journey of discovery over the last 5 years has been amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything else, but that's a little bit of personal context.
No, that's very interesting. Yeah, I feel like we all have imposter complex a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
Right? I feel like it's one of the best things in the world. I think the higher your imposter complex and you believe you should not have gotten lucky in the manner that you did, the nicer you turn out to be as a person.
I think the more humble you turn out to be, for sure, because you realize that it isn't you. It was circumstantial, it was luck, it was whatever.
And people don't give enough weightage to being nice. I think it's a big categorization for me.
The world is actually not equipped, or the world doesn't know how to treat nice people.
Right.
I think it's very weird. Like if somebody's nice, you're gonna start to take advantage. Somebody's honest, you're gonna start to take advantage. As in the world, I'm talking. Right. So the world is not equipped, and hence the niceness kind of fades rather than increase.
There's another angle to this niceness thing, and I think as a comedian, he probably has the highest of it, right? One, I think to be a comedian, you need to be freaking smart and highly intellectual.
I think comedians and politicians, smartest people in our community.
Smartest people, right? You got to be highly intellectual.
I imagine Bhagwan Pan.
But the interesting part that I find is the hardest skill to hire for and the hardest skill to inculcate is emotional quotient. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I emotionally be empathetic to what your needs are? And this could be on social media, this could be in the workplace, right? Really hard to find people with high EQ, right? And that's what we need, right? I mean, that's what makes great teams work, or the ability to create magic.
Yeah.
or the ability to emotionally connect with your audience, right? And you probably have a formula for it. I'll pause there. I was wanting to turn it over to you.
No, I think, for me, the difference between AIB and my current brand, right? Like I see a lot more love now. There was a lot of respect for the content we made at AIB. I think a lot of it is with my own personal journey. There was people have, in public, there's been a lot of ups and downs. And the pandemic kind of helped because I was live for 6 to 8 hours straight. I was, everything that was happening with me was also being displayed publicly. And but emotionally connecting with an audience is, it really comes down to authenticity.
Yeah.
Like you began this conversation by saying I'm the most shallow person in the world, and you already had me. And then I was so into that story, even though Umang took me through I had breakfast with Umang last couple of weeks ago, where we went through both of our journeys actually. So it actually comes down to that, and being able to be that authentic, it requires a certain sense of security, knowing that everybody's flawed and it's okay if my flaws are public, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big skill, and anybody who's able to do it that flawlessly is I think Zakir, who's a comedian, you guys
Yes,
know,
yes.
he's so phenomenally good at it. I think in this day and age where comedy is no longer an occasion, it's a medium. Being able to emotionally connect is a much bigger superpower. You also want to laugh along with someone who you emotionally like.
Yeah.
Which is you like if you go to a restaurant and there's a band playing, and if it's not a band that you like, you can tune it out. But if you go to a restaurant, it's a comedian you don't like, you're not going to eat there.
Do you know who you like right away when you meet people?
I think people make good first impressions. And there are some skills that you can develop to make good first impressions.
At one point in life, you should write a self-help book. How to make a good first impression, how to become a social media star, how to do what with you know what. Yeah?
Thank you for editing on the fly, Nikhil Kamath.
See, I'm learning.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nikhil. Thank you for watching the podcast. Let us know who your favorite guest has been and who you'd like to watch next. Thank you.